YouTube, it's Brian Phillips. Look at this. We've got the Tecnam 2010 from Arrows. Super excited to bring you this plane. Yes, we have set ours up with some large barn door flaps. We did go through a pretty intense radio setup and build, just so you guys can follow along if you're new to the sport or trying to get into the sport. We are flying on the NX8, and we have a 3S 2200 Arrows pack with a voltage alarm in there that did not come with the plane, full disclosure. Okay, here we go. Tricycle configuration. This one also happened to come with flaps and really sharp. Hey, camera crew, right there. You can also get this with flaps. Ours came with just landing gear and flaps.
Floats.
Floats, sorry, not flaps, guys, sorry.
So it has flaps too.
So you can add floats if you want, but generally if you're gonna use them, you'd wanna order it that way. I'm trying to figure out what direction I can go out here for our takeoff. Noticing that nose gear kind of goes way out to the front, so it's kind of reactionary in a weird way, but it does turn really sharp. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get it. You think I'm gonna be able to get it? I think I can. So. Yes, awesome. Okay, here goes nothing. Takeoff flaps are deployed. About 50% dialed in there. We're going up to 75, 80, 100% out of the takeoff flaps. Boy, that thing just gets off the ground pretty easy. I didn't even give it like 80% maybe. Looks fantastic. Takeoff flaps dialed in. We need a little bit more elevator correction. Now this would be considered to be a trainer, and I can tell you right now, it's practically flying itself. We are windy right now, and look at that thing. The Vector is doing an absolutely phenomenal job of keeping the heading where you want it. But I can say one flaw, if you want to call it a flaw, would be the fact that it is definitely not a powerhouse. So one thing about beginner planes is if they're not powerful, you can get yourself into some tough spots you can't get out of. I don't think this one's going to give you that problem though, because look at the power out of the flaps. You got plenty of power there. If you can do inside out loops, you're usually pretty good. Let's do a right side. We're doing golden there. Now let's show them on auto leveling. There's auto leveling. Okay, I turned my switch on. The bird has come to engage in battle and cowardice ran away. Okay, out of the, guys, this is what the auto leveling. Not real super tight on the auto leveling, but it looks more like a loiter. That's interesting. What if it's supposed to do that? Okay, I turned it. Okay, I'm gonna come out of that. Pretty cool. Now this would be like a general aviation plane, high wing tricycle for a trainer is kind of a cool thing. Let's get it along these trees here. We got wind coming right to left. So we're with the wind, now we're into the wind still, into the wind hard, and a little stall turn, full landing flaps, and we'll come between us and the building. Actually, you're gonna need a couple of steps. Look at that thing crab, guys. Absolutely gorgeous. Look at those flight characteristics. Wide flight envelope. About bit the trees there, just because we got a lot of turbulent air right there. That's one thing too to keep in mind, folks. If you're flying this for your first time, make sure you pick a good, nice, calm day. No confused winds. Make sure you're flying in an environment where you got lots of room, full landing flaps coming out to help with the climb, or excuse me, the climb out from that dive. Boy, that wind is pushing us. Lots of rudder, almost 100% rudder to keep my heading. Takeoff flaps here. Let's just see how terrible it is getting down the runway here. Okay, we're about 30% throttle there just to maintain that. There's a lot of rudder too. Kind of surprising how much you got to be on the rudder. Coordinating your turns in this plane. For being a trainer, you can actually mix that in on the radio system, but I don't want to mix it because I'm used to it. I want to do it myself for fun. Full landing flaps coming in. Okay, we need more down elevator correction, but look at that thing slow down, guys. Look how slow it is. It's like it might get here some year, going right overhead. Look how slow it is, just so that people can see how slow you can fly this thing. It's incredible. Okay, out of the landing flap barn doors, up and around, just like a jet fighter. Gotta love it. LEDs are super fantastic. We're getting good visibility. Those clouds are definitely giving us a nice backdrop. But one thing to keep in mind is that when you get into these trainers, you have to remember, give yourself lots of margins when you're new, okay? Now, what is the other one, the Tecnam that we did for arrows?
The Trekker is the other one.
Sorry,
yes.
I misspoke. Okay, there's our timer. Boy, that caught the wind like crazy there. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it's really got intense there for a second. Okay, kind of forcing it down. That was the Trekker we did the day that there was the deadly tornado hit our area. I mean, not for us, thank God, but even still, whoa, into the power. Takeoff flaps now. I would really like lots of rudder to coordinate that turn. You see how it's keeping its altitude? It's 75% rudder out of the flaps. Look how big the circle gets all of a sudden. Wowzers. Janking it up. It'll do it quick. Janking it up. That's about 75%. Cornhole. Oh, that's pretty cool. Full landing flaps and flipping it around. Here we go, right down, forcing the nose down. Look at it slow down as we're going downhill. Just as you'd want to. Okay, into the takeoff flaps. Whoa! Got to overwhelm all that wind. Really actively flying this thing with these confused winds. Let's see if we can land it here. Takeoff flaps only. We'll bring it in kind of a long ways, and then we're going to go into the landing flaps. Having to force the nose down just a hair. We need a little bit more, and then we're having to kind of cut at the last second. Oh, yeah! And I could see that nose gear being a problem for somebody if you're trying to do this in the grass. Nice wide turns. Even though you can do it sharp, you want to wait till you're slow because it's going to bounce on you. Now let's go ahead and look at our elevator correction real quick. Flap system. I need a little bit more. Let's do 10. And then let's do 16. 10 and 16. That's a lot, guys. All right, we're going to try again. The wind is coming from here right now. So I'm actually going to double back and go straight into the wind just to show people how beautiful this thing can take off.
Okay.
You see how much bounce you get on that nose gear, guys? That's one thing to keep in mind on this plane. You can turn real sharp and taxi, but don't do that fast. Okay, here we go. Takeoff flaps deployed. Get off of that nose gear as soon as you can. Look at that beautiful takeoff. Folks, we're supposed to be out of our flight now, but we can't get enough of this plane, obviously. Look at that beautiful level flight, about 10% to 15% on my rudder, just to kind of hold my heading and also keep the angle of attack where I want it. And I just lock in my ailerons and I just ride each of those 3 axes until I get what I want out of the plane. When you fly a radio controlled airplane, you're reactionary. You see what happens, then you react. You induce and then you react. So if I want to start turning, I kick that nose over, I roll to the left, I'm going under the tree line intentionally because I can hear a manned aircraft and I can't see it, but it's probably over the clouds. Okay, here we go, just a little bit, we'll land right now. With the wind is not a good idea, but we'll do it anyway. That was not so good. Okay, camera crew, you need to... Okay, takeoff flaps. Okay, I've identified where the aircraft is. We're just landing to avoid manned aircraft there, getting off the mains as soon as possible. I don't know if you guys could see that, but I was riding the elevator so that I could roll off of the nose gear as soon as possible, folks. That's important if you're piloting an aircraft with a weak nose gear. I tend to think this nose gear is gonna give some of you guys trouble if you jank it too hard on landing. I wanna try to do a crazy landing approach here. Over the power lines, straight in front of us. Are you good? Mm-hmm. Actually, you know what? I might be able to go under, but it's gonna have to be right on the edge. These power lines are coming down in the next couple of weeks, guys. About 10% throttle right over the power line. Bring it down right into the wind. We got a little wind here. Help me wind, woo! Touching wind. It didn't get it. All right, we gotta try that again. Take off flaps again. Trying to cut straight into that little bit of wind. So we're gonna go up here, take a wide base leg to the left. We're gonna go under the power lines. You guys can see kind of where the power lines don't necessarily help in this spot because the angle of the wind is bad. Okay, here we go. Forcing it down. Full landing flaps. Slow us down, landing flaps. Whoa, buddy, that's pretty good stuff right there. And we are full stop. That's how you do it. Super fun, guys. So if you ever get a plane, simple, got light landing gear, and you know you're gonna have potential for problems with them, get off of the landing gear as soon as possible. We are 4 minutes 51 past our timer. Let's check our voltages. We put a little cheap voltage alarm in here. One of these things probably cost you about $5 for a single, or 10 bucks for a couple or three. You mind holding this? We'll just pop this open real quick. Throttle cuts on and tested. And we are at, where is our voltage alarm? Here it is. We are currently at 3.76. You know what? That's a perfect spot to stop if you're not Brian Phillips.
I was going to say, there's no
So what
way.
we're going to do is we're going to go a little bit longer. I'm going to put it back into takeoff flaps. The wind has lulled, so I'll go ahead and launch this direction, but it looks so cool launching over here. Do you want to film from over here for a second?
Yeah.
I'll get back into position. You go ahead and go around the corner there. We're going to launch right into the abyss, the bull. High danger maneuvers. Okay, everybody ready? Here we go. Don't forget to run and duck there, camera crew.
Okay.
Oh, that looks so sweet. I'm gonna go around and then into the back.
Okay.
Really light on the throttle. 30 amp ESC, just feels like it'll run forever. Going right between the trees into the jungles of Colombia to pick up small packages. UPS just refuses to deliver. Oh no, anti-aircraft. We have to avoid some strategic anti-aircraft fire to get to the package that we're going to be picking up. Generally, we don't do too many delivers to this part of the jungle. Now we're gonna bring it back to where all the rest of the people live. Right here, here we go, okay. Full landing flaps coming in. And down the runway. Oh no, oh no, oh no, ground effect. Out of ground effect. Camera crew, you want to go out about 10 steps so I can leave where I am? Thank you. Okay, we'll go around and then try to take a landing left to right. It is unusual. We don't land left to right as much. But this thing seems to give and give and give. Takeoff flaps, now landing flaps. In the throttle still, look at that thing. Still kind of a little tendency to balloon. We might need a little bit more. I want a greasy landing here. Oh, that was not greasy. That was greasy After Effects. We're trying again, guys. That was a nasty bounce. Goodness gracious, who's flying that thing? Takeoff flaps. Landing flaps coming in, forcing the nose down just a little bit. Look at that thing slow down, folks. It's barely moving. How did I bounce that? So there you have it, folks. The Tecnam 2010. Absolutely super fun plane. Definitely available. Look at the wiggle on the nose gear. This is what you would call a general aviation aircraft. Everything feels rock solid on it, except for the nose gear, which has a little bit of wiggle. Love the nav lights. Red and green, just like they would be in real life. And they definitely help with visibility up against clouds like this. The white does tend to blend in a little bit. And so if you get this and you like to fly in cloudy skies like this, you might want to hit it with some spray paint and give a little contrast. But otherwise, love the general aviation planes. That's one of my sweet spots in aviation. And I do like the finish level. This plane is very light. It uses a very small ESC, and we are flying it on a very small and economical battery. 2200 3S is cheap and small. And this is not an overly small plane. It's 1400 millimeters, 1450 to be specific. That's a big plane, a lot of plane for your dollar. And yes, there's a coupon code on BrianPhillipsRC.com. Check it out. But But if you want to just follow the links right now and spend extra, you can do that. Otherwise, navigate over to www.brianphillipsrc.com, check it out, and then you can follow the link there, and we'll have the coupon codes for you. But otherwise, really love the Tecnam. Great plane. Seems like a good beginner plane, but just keep in mind that nose gear. And keep in mind, if you're flying off a grass strip, I don't think that nose gear is going to tolerate it very well. Now, also, this plane does come with floats the way we got it. So if you put floats on it, you can do that. It does have a rudder that's a servo-actuated rudder. So you'll be able to fly this and be able to navigate the waters, but no thrust reverse. So just keep that in mind. You want to have some sort of a, you know, some foreflant. You don't want to end up in weeds across the pond or the lake from you and not be able to get over there to get it. That's one thing you got to watch out for without thrust reverse. But nothing an avian ESC won't fix. That being said, very happy with this plane. Looks great. Love the barn door flaps. You don't have to set them up quite as much as we did. In fact, I think that it might be able to grease the landings a little bit better if they weren't down quite that far, but real happy with it. And speaking of, I'm gonna go ahead and crank up the flaps just a little bit more. Flap system, and it's gonna be 10 for elevator correction on takeoff, and we're gonna go up to 22% for landing. That's huge, guys, huge. And by the way, I don't know what type of voltage we got left, but I gotta test that. So we're gonna go ahead and test that right now. All right, guys, here we go. Takeoff flaps are off. Camera crew is gonna go back 14 steps to her left. Thank you, perfect, right there. Okay, here we go, into the bull. Gets off the ground, beautiful sun. Oh yes, okay, full landing flaps. And we have no more ballooning, yes. So 22% seems to be a pretty dang good spot. And yet look how slow she flies now, amazing. Let's see if we can land. If we can. You can always land. This may not be very pretty. Ooh! Boom! You know what it is? I think we're so barn doored, I can't even flare the plane. So what I'm gonna do is if it's dead calm like this, I'm probably gonna go around 50% throttle and she's still giving. There's 100%. If you guys are low on battery and you're not sure, I do have a voltage alarm in there, so it is gonna alarm us when we're really close. Okay, full landing flaps coming in just to slow us down, and then out. Now full landing flaps. I wanna see if I can flare. Yeah, see, I don't think I have enough to flare. That is awesome. I went off into the grass, that's hilarious. All right, let's try going around the other direction. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna come out of the flaps altogether. I'm gonna do a nice low level flight. There's takeoff flaps. We'll just line it with the takeoff flaps now. Okay, a little bit of wind from our backside, just a little. Okay, here we go. So now I should be able to flare. Oh yeah, yeah, you can get onto the mains that way. See how I'm rolling on the mains? But then I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm having to do a little bit of rudder and a little bit of aileron correction just to bring it down the runway straight because it's wanting to push up my, what would have been my right wing there. Okay, so we'll just do our base leg late. We'll come in real steep, full landing flaps, point the nose down, lose speed as we're falling out of into the takeoff flaps, looking for the flare, ground effect, and then flare. Touch and go and around. Watching for our flagpole, we'll go to the little bit to the right, and then we're gonna go way up, kind of the same approach. Got blown off course that time. Coming in right above the power lines. Almost no power to fly this plane. Okay, out of the landing flaps. You see it drop there, guys? Look at that, right on the mains. Beautiful greasy landing. Riding the elevator just to get the weight off of the nose gear. And then now full down elevator to keep the nose down. Very cool, guys. Love flying these planes. It's funny because you would think as you advance through the ranks of the planes that you would get tired of flying what some would call trainers. I love flying trainers, even to this day. It's super fun. And when you come in and you bounce a landing, you're like, dang it. But at the same time, it's so much less stress when you're flying a trainer and you've got a little bit more skill and you can come in and just work and just really dial it in. It's like one of my favorite things to do. Even with fixed gear, you know, Retracts are cool, but they add that extra element of failure rate. They add that extra element of skill. And so if you're looking for something to get you, you know, past your Sport Cub S or your Pioneer or whatever it is, your little Eachine 400 millimeter, and you want to get into something big, and you're like, but I don't have a huge budget, Brian. I need something I can get into, but it's not super expensive. But you do have a transmitter, this thing is the way to go. It's really good for that fit. And that being said, if you want to get it with floats, it might not be a bad first float plane. But I can definitely say this, in flying it, it does have some interesting characteristics, not the least of which is the nose gear. Once you're in the air, the thing flies just absolutely gorgeous. I want to go again. The sun's poking out. Can we go again? I want to go again. Okay, here we go. If I crash, it's on me. Oh, wait, I'm flying anyway. That just looks so good right now with the sun and the trees and the wind and me flying it. It's so much fun. Guys, I can't give up. Look at how awesome that looks. Full landing flaps. Let's see how slow we can go. How slow can you go? This reminds me of the Sky Trainer from FMS, but only it flies a lot better and it was a way easier build. Because that Sky Trainer sucked to put together. It is beautiful, but also not an especially cheap plane if I recall. See, with full landing flaps, it just flops down because the attitude of the airplane is too nose down. Did you see that, camera crew? I did that with full landing flaps on. Oh, by the way, we're up to like, I don't know, 15 minutes and 45 seconds. There has been some definite downtime there though. Okay, full landing flaps. We're gonna try to do it under. Okay, we're going down low and then out. Okay. Full landing flaps. And full up elevator. See how it bounces? That's every time. Maybe it's my barn door configuration.
Well, those aren't.
There, okay, there's our warning. You hear the pitch of the motor? Mm-hmm. Okay, here it goes. This is what we get. There is a low voltage cutoff that we are in right now. Full landing flaps. Holy crap. As usual, I'm Brian Phillips RC. We have literally taken it to the limit of battery. 16 minutes, 34 seconds as we speak. That's past 5. Past 5.
Yep.
So we went to 21 minutes, but it wasn't 21 minutes of flight time. We were on the ground for probably 5 of that. I would say 15 minutes on 2200 3S you can do, but I would say that like 8 to 10 minutes would be a safe estimate. And let's go ahead and show the people where our actual voltages are. Ooh, actually I wanna close my flaps so I don't have problems with those. Throttle cuts on and tested. Yeah, 3.21, 3.25. 9.67, 3.21. Yeah, we're pretty much spent, guys. If you're flying at that voltage, you went too far. Now, that being said, the cool thing is it hasn't self-destructed. That's very nice. And check this out. No puffy. So that's always nice. If you can run a pack past proper voltage and not have any puffing, that's really good. 3.3 volts it's usually safe, okay? I think that the unsafe level, you know, for like over discharge on a LiPo usually ends up being into like 2.8, 2.7 area. And then you're starting to get in the point where, you know, you can actually damage the pack because you're going to puff it so much that it will lose its shape and it's not going to be able to recover. But very happy with this plane. It's definitely a good trainer option. You know, if you want another awesome trainer, we've been really happy with the Bigfoot 1.3. It's a little bit smaller, but the thing that I do like about that is that you can get it in the ready to fly package. So keep that in mind. If you guys are looking for a plane that's in the general aviation realm, you want flaps, this one does the trick. I believe the Bigfoot also has flaps, and I believe you can get it in a ready to fly. So that being said, I like the way the plane flies. It's definitely that nose gear is going to give people problems on rough ground. But honestly, it was pretty well behaved. I just wish that we could talk all these manufacturers, just have a meeting and say, guys, where's the soft tires? Because honestly, soft tires would resolve. Every one of my bad landings would be half as bad if we had something in the tires to help absorb the loading. But really liked the plane. It was super breeze to put together. We spent a lot of time in the Unbox Build radio setup trying to give a lot of information important to these new pilots. So if you're not a new pilot and you're annoyed by that, I'm really sorry. We're trying to help out people that are new. You were new one day, I remember. And so we're trying to bring them up a little bit and get them some information. So hopefully you guys can tolerate that along with us. And we love teaching people how to do stuff here on Brian Phillips RC. Obviously, we do a big part of what we do is education that's disguised as a fun video. And we hope that you guys see it that way, because there's nothing more fun, in my opinion, than flying these fixed wing airplanes. I mean, there's a lot of fun things you can do. Don't get me wrong. It's not the only fun thing that there is to do, but it's very fun to do this. I love flying fixed wing aircraft. Is probably the best RC experience, in my opinion. It's the harder to learn. Between that and RC helicopters is probably in the same realm, I would say. But you know, like when you get into quads and you know, drones and things like that, there's almost always a flight controller involved. On these, you can have a flight controller involved, and many of them do have them, but stabilizers don't fly the plane for you. You still have to fly. And the camera crew can say what she has to say about that. Definitely stabilizers help a lot, but they don't fly the plane for you.
They do not.
So that being said, there's a lot more spatial awareness you have to have. You really have to have your practice in on simulator if you can get access to one. And but you know, when I was learning to fly, I didn't want to fly on a simulator. I preferred to go out and crash a plane and actually learn by pain and suffering. Because to be honest, some people learn better that way. You know, they're hard-headed enough that they need to actually fail to be able to learn it effectively. So it just depends on your learning style.
It does, very much. Our son has done a lot of simulator. I like flying on the simulator.
Yeah.
But they're not our planes. Like, it's your plane.
Right.
You go fly it.
And so he feels bad when he crashes them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't need to feel bad. We have like 200 more. But at the same time, you know, when I first started flying, I would literally fly the wings off of my planes. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I remember my Sport Cub S, I went through like 7 or 10 engines or some of the motors
all the time.
And I mean, it was like I'd get about a week and a half out of these brushed motors, and then they were smoked. Then I'd have to like go and like prop start it or it wouldn't work, and you'd have to stay in the throttle the whole flight or let it tractor until it took off. So the desperation kicks in, and then eventually you move into another plane. But this is something that'd be great for you if you are a beginner pilot that wants to advance in the ranks. You're kind of like in that mode of like, okay, I'm sure I'm going to be doing this for a little bit, so I don't mind investing in a nice transmitter. That's going to get you, you know, into the next whole arena of planes. And believe me, when you're buying a transmitter, it's never fun because you're like, ugh, I really want more planes, Brian. You're saying I got to go drop $500-600 on a transmitter? You kind of do at some point. The earlier you do it, the faster you're going to recover your cost. I'm just telling you, because the more ready to flies you buy, the more you're wasting, okay? And that's just coming from personal experience. Now we got a lot of ready to flies too, but if you can get them as a bind and fly, you'll save a lot of cash. It only takes a handful of planes and you've actually paid for this, just in the cost difference. So then also with the Arrows brand, we've had really good luck, good packaging, good quality finish, not a lot of weird problems. This thing went together super fast. You do have to feed a lot of the wires into the wing. So like if you have to take this wing apart, it's not going to be like super fun to do because you have to unplug all those wires that go into the cabin. But honestly, it's not an overly huge plane. 1450 millimeters is big, but this thing has a small tail on it and the tail is low. So if you were to put this in a plane, like put this next to a Timber Evo, which is a 1.5, so just very slightly bigger, it's going to be twice as tall. So you just have to think about it like this. Some planes that are 1400 millimeters are huge and some are not. This one's not. Also the antennas, if you're gonna have to transport this and you don't want to dink around with taking it apart, then make sure you don't put your antennas in. We glued our antennas in, so you would just leave those out. Or you could like maybe put in the bottom antenna. So really happy with this. Also, I noticed when I'm holding it up for the picture at the beginning, we always take our thumbnails from the beginning. It was kind of hard to hold because there's a step that you glue on. That step sort of made it awkward to pick up. So just a couple of things that you guys might not want on there. I think they look cool and I think they're worth having. But at the same time, that type of feature is the first thing that gets knocked off in a grass landing anyway. Yep, so sure. Lots of different things. Oh, cool. Look at that manned aircraft. So cool. Fortunately, he's way up there, but he's actually not that high.
Not that bad.
So anyway, we love doing this stuff for you guys here on Brian Phillips RC, and we hope you'll stick around. If you haven't already seen the Unbox Build Radio setup, it's already published and ready to watch right now, unless barring some technical glitch. But this thing should be a really helpful video for you if you're new. We'll try to help explain some of the terminologies. And if you don't get the answers to your question in the video, timestamp it and ask the question in the comments below. But do me a huge favor and watch the video first, and then maybe jump back and say, okay, you didn't answer it, because we do kind of necessarily have to jump around a little bit because the way the plane assembles, we work our way through the process. And we do that on almost every plane we do, and we have done hundreds of them. So we hope that you'll be here for a while, or at least until you get to the point where you don't need any help anymore, and then you're just coming back to see what's latest and greatest. So we really appreciate you guys. Anything you want to add about the Tecnam?
Chuck, I think you mentioned at the beginning, if we have coupon codes and stuff, they'll be at brianphillipsrc.com.
We know we have one on this.
We know there's one on this.
Or we know that we're getting one on this. So check it out. That way you can save a few bucks. And yes, you can follow the link. We have those on the website as well.
It'll be in either place.
Yep. And then also, if you're wanting to learn about other planes that we've done that are beginner aircraft, we have all that stuff on the website as well. Or you can also just use YouTube to find stuff through playlists. That's the easiest way on our channel. If you go look for an individual video, you're gonna find it kind of hard because there's just like so many of them, and you have to get the nomenclature just right on the search results. But if you go ahead and look for playlists, you'll find what you need, because you can go into that playlist. Now keep in mind, we have a few where we've done V1, V2, V3 of the same plane. So you'll have to specify if there is a few versions available. And some of them, we were starting on V2, we didn't recognize that at the time, so we may not have labeled them as such.
Right.
So our apologies, we try our best to get accurate information. You have something else?
There is like an Arrows playlist. If you want to compare this to another Arrows plane, you can just find that playlist too, and then you can say, oh, that's, and so you can compare that way if you aren't sure on the exact search term for this specific plane necessarily.
But if you're looking through the playlist, that's the easiest way to find everything about this particular plane. And we also leave those at the end in the little boxes that come up. And the end screens are a good way for you to learn a little bit more about the plane that you're watching, our latest release, the website, and then I think I don't know. We always try to do the same stuff. We try to, people like order and reason, consistency. I don't know why it's so hard to deliver that. We just do what people want all the time, like lav mics.
In short videos.
In short videos, because obviously people have 3 hours to watch these things.
Right.
So anyway, when you're done with your short prison sentence and you've watched half of our videos and you're home and you've got to go to work and stuff and you're still trying to find the time to watch all the rest of the Brian Phillips RC, just make sure you click the notifications so that you can keep up to speed, at least on the current stuff. So thanks for watching, guys. Come back for more. So much more coming from Brian Phillips RC.